In this talk, we're going to cover how to add a layer to GeoShape and then how to style it and also update its schema. Um, if you want more information about GeoShape, go to geoshape.org. There's a demo server up that you can try. You can also find the source code on GitHub. So let's go ahead and open up the demo.geoshape.org. This is our demo server. I'm already logged in here. So let's go to the Layers tab. Here's where you see a list of layers uploaded by different individuals. So we're going to go ahead and say upload layers here, and we can go ahead and browse for files and select all the files that are associated with a shape file in this particular case. GeoNode allows uploading of a variety of different formats. For example, you can upload shape files, GeoJSON, KML, and other formats. Here, I clicked on Choose File and selected Shapefile and the associated files that come with a typical shapefile. You could also drag and drop your files here. As you can see here, the name of the layer is going to be OCHA Security Incidents. The GeoNode knows that what's already uploaded has detected that's a shapefile format. We have two different choices to pick here. One of them says configure time. If you have a layer which has an attribute that's a timestamp and essentially shows a timeline at which a feature has happened or was created or modified, etc., you can put a check mark here and allow or specify in GeoNode how to specify how the particular field can be interpreted, and essentially end up with a timeline in the web client, which you can click play on to see the changes to the features over time or how something changes. In this particular case, we don't have necessarily a column meant to be a timeline, so we're not going to check that. The second choice we have, it says import to GeoGig. By default, everything you upload to GeoNode goes to a PostGIS data store, which is optimized for performance. However, if you want to upload your data into a GeoGig data store, you'll have the benefit of being able to track all the changes to the layer and features, etc. In this particular case, because I'm planning on making changes to the features, I want to show you the history capability that GeoShape comes configured with. I'm going to put this in GeoGig. However, not all layers are meant to go to GeoGig. For example, if you have a layer that's all the roads or all the, let's say, hospitals, and the intention is to use them as a read-only database, or layer for that matter, and you don't intend to change them using the web client and the mobile device, then you should not put it in GeoGig. You should let it go in a PostGIS data store, which is highly optimized for performance. So here I need to either select an existing GeoGig repository or create a new one, and I'm going to create one called my test repo. I'll hit enter. This will create. This has just created a new repo on the server, and here on the right-hand side, you can specify who can see the layer, and here, for example, who can edit it. In another video, we're going to talk about groups, and you can create groups to make things easier, where you can add a bunch of users at once. But here, you can actually type in any username, and go from there. And since I'm already CyrusM, I'll have access by default to edit and view it, so we'll leave it as such. Let's go ahead and hit upload. Now, a shapefile that I'm uploading right now can originally, you can create a shapefile in either Esri Desktop or Arc Desktop client, or you can create it in QGIS, which is a free and open source um, uh, desktop client as well. And let's go ahead and this has been uploaded. Let's go ahead and go to the layer info. And here on the layer info page, we're going to be able to see any features on this layer, which this particular layer doesn't have any actual features in it. As you can see, it does say, the legends say, oh, that it's a square blue dot. Let's go ahead and create a map from this layer and add a feature to it. So I'll say create map. Because there's absolutely no features on this layer, the viewer has defaulted to 0, 0, but let's go ahead and create a feature here. I'll click create on the particular layer. I'll place a geometry. You can drag and move the geometry. I'll say OK. Then this has now brought up a list of attributes that you can fill out for this particular feature. And let's go ahead and say for name, I'll just do, let's see, let's say test. Okay, we'll leave the date and time to be auto-populated there, and no particular comments. Actually, we'll move this to the comments field. Okay, and we've stored this particular feature. Let's go ahead and add another one. We'll go here, and that's 2. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a feature on this layer. We'll click here, and we'll go ahead and say testing. These are all the features, all the attributes that you can edit for this particular feature. All right, you can see the feature on the map. You could go back and view or edit its attributes, or and even edit the geometry, move it. Okay, and so let's now go back to the layer preview, and let's go to layers. On layers, you'll see this particular layer that was just uploaded, that we had just uploaded. And let's go ahead and look at the features. There's 2 features on it now. We're going to go ahead and let's see how we can change the symbology. There are 2 different ways you can change the symbology. One of them gives you a decent amount of control, but doesn't expose all the advanced features you could do when styling. Let's start with the easy way. I'll click on Style. You can see that here there's a rule and gives the color of a point. And let's go ahead and actually edit this. I'll instead make this, let's go ahead and make the color, we're going to go ahead and make the color red. Okay. Let's make the, let's move this point. As you can see, the color is red there. We'll make this guy be much larger. Make it 15. Okay. And instead of a square, let's go ahead and change it to a circle. Let's save this and go back. And so you can see it's now viewed as a circle. And we'll go back in one more time. You could, for example, make it transparent. Even give it an outline. Let's give it a solid blue outline, width of 2, and with no opacity, that's fine. Okay, so now as you see, we have changed what the symbology of the features here. So now let's go ahead and back and view a map. I can click here and zoom to features on this particular map. Okay. All right. So now you can see the symbology is the legend's updated and the symbology is different. But let's go back and let's see this particular layer has a type. So let's go ahead and has a field called type. And let's say we want to change the symbology of the layer based on the value of the type field. So different security incidents would have different symbology. And instead of circles, maybe we want to associate some actual, a small PNG or an image that's more indicative of what the particular incident is. So what we'll do, we will go ahead and let's go to Geoserver, which again, so Geoserver is the actual web application that serves out and does the rendering and so forth of the geospatial data. It's on the same server as GeoNode. And if we come to Geoserver, I'm going to go to the Layers section, and let's search for OCHA, and you can see there's OCHA security incidents. This is the layer that I uploaded through GeoNode. First of all, you can see that the bounds are not really defined because when the layer was uploaded, it didn't really have any information. We can go ahead and specify the bounds for this particular layer. That way it's looking at the entire map. We can come to the publishing section. In the publishing section, it actually shows the symbology, and you can see the symbology that we had modified. Let's go ahead and add a more sophisticated symbology here that does conditioning based on the actual feature type. So I'll save what we have so far. I'm going to go to the Style section. And in the Style section, you could see are there any styles on the server. These are essentially XML files that are quite powerful in describing how you want your symbology to show up. So I'll add a new style here. I'm going to give it a name. Let's call it OCHA. Okay, very good. Workspace. We won't give it a workspace. And I will actually, I already have one created here. Okay, copy what I've created here and paste it. I will do a validation check. Comes back and says there's no errors, so it's a valid XML. I'll go ahead and submit this. All right, so now if I search for OCHA, you'll see that this is the default style that was created when we uploaded the layer to GeoNode. This is the one that I just uploaded. So let's go ahead and go back to our layers. I will go and look for the OCHA security incidents. On the Publishing tab, now I can look for OCHA. Let's see, OCHA security incidents. And as you can see, there is this particular style has definition for, has symbology for a lot of different security incident types. And we'll go ahead and save this. Okay. And what we'll do next is that if we go actually now to our Geoserver, and let's go ahead and you can actually go to you can save the map really quick. One, go to maps, open that map again. This will change the boundaries that we had. And so let's go ahead and now we have a layer that has a symbology. This symbology question mark, it really doesn't know. It's not none of these specific ones. So let's go ahead and edit this attribute. the way the symbology works is that, and we'll go look into the style, but it looks for particular values in this type field. And you could see by in the type field, I type in arrest, the symbology changed to that. Now, this is a bit cumbersome here because the user has to get this value, first of all, know what the values are and get them just right for it to show up. So what we need to do now for this particular layer, we want to have a drop down for type where it pre-populated with all the choices we want to allow the user to select from. So to do that, in an effort for the mobile application to only rely on GeoServer and no other particular services, we're making use of the schema of the layer. So if you go to your server URL and then you go to GS schema or GeoServer schema, you can select any particular layers you have, and again I'm going to look for OCHA security incidents. And here you can pull down the default schema that's auto-generated and then use that to add the drop-down choices. So I'll go ahead and say describe feature, and I will show this in Finder. Let's go ahead and do an open, actually. Choose an application. Okay, so this is what the schema looks like, the default schema without any drop-downs in there. You could see that this XML file lists out every single attribute that the particular layer or feature type has. And actually, if we go back to the map here, click, you can see you have type, status, name, date and time, comments. And if we come back to our text editor, you'll see we have the same thing: ID, type, status, name. There's actually a field called photos. This allows both the web client and also the mobile application to attach photos to the particular feature on the map. So, let's go ahead and we want to go ahead and take type, and we want to add different drop-down choices here. Now, I already have a schema that's completed that has all the choices in it, and let's go ahead and take a quick look at it. So in this particular schema, okay, so when you come to the type field, you can see that instead of terminating here with a slash, there's no slash like the line above it or any of the other lines. There's no slash there, but then it defines, it says, here's a simple type, and it lists out all the possible choices here. And then we come further down for another field, status, actually. Similarly, it says every feature can be reported, confirmed, active, or over. So we're going to see two different fields with drop-down values. So let's go ahead and, now that we have this, you have to edit this, and we'll point you to a document where it explains what you have to change. But once you make all your changes, which is really, again, this is the segments and what you really have to do. Once you have the changes, then you can upload the file. So let's go ahead and go to the schema service again, and describe feature type. We've got the very basic without any drop-down XML, which you could use as a baseline to add your drop-down choices. Here, you can choose to upload one that you've used. So here, the schema, I'm going to upload the one that I was just showing you, and we'll hit upload. Upload was successful, so now it's in the server. If you go ahead and say download, now it will show you the if there's no error in your schema file, it will download and show all your changes there. So let's go ahead and now go back to the web application, and we need to reload the map. So since this map was already saved and it has an ID, I can go ahead and just hit refresh here. My viewport has already been saved, and let's say edit attribute. So now when I come to the type field here, you'll see all the choices that the schema had, and these are very carefully entered here, and I'll show you how the style refers to these specific values. So if I change this, and then there's a status that says report confirmed active. These are not changing the actual symbology, only type is, but you could even choose these, make a style that says, all right, if something is has a type and it's active, you could put a green circle around it in addition to the symbology there. So you could get you can have sophisticated symbology. But let's go ahead and save this guy. As you can see, symbology changed. So let's go back and look in Geoserver in more detail, see what the style actually does. So if we go back to the style, let's search for OCHA. Again, this was the one that was uploaded and created by default by GeoNode when we uploaded the layer. This is the one that I explicitly uploaded. So let's see what this says. Okay. So what you see here is that it's, this particular schema, first of all, it says the name of the layer, that is OCHA security incident. This name shows up here in the title. Okay. Then it says, hey, we have a rule. The title of this rule is abduction. So we're gonna have an entry in our legend called abduction. So, which is that first line right there. Then it says, look for we want to look for a property that is equal to. Look for the property name type and make sure it's equal to, that's the operation, to abduction in lowercase. So this line here, this is what's checking to see if a particular feature is an abduction. It's a feature of type abduction. Once, or has a type of abduction for that matter. Once this matches, then the symbology it's going to be utilized and says, hey, this is a online resource, and it actually points to a file on the server where the symbology is. Instead of file, this could actually be a URL. The reason why you'd want to point to your local server, if it's an option for you, it's because if you don't have any internet connectivity, it's nice to still be able to see all your symbology. GeoSHAPE already comes with a lot of symbols that you could utilize for your needs, or you can actually create PNGs, other PNGs that suit your needs, and put them in the on the server and refer to them here from here. So yeah, so this essentially says if the type attribute of this particular feature has a value of abduction, go ahead and use this PNG called security abduction, which is 20 pixel, 20 by 20 pixel. And same way for arrest, there's another rule now. This other rule is going to translate to another entry in the legend. So arrest here, if I come back, it says arrest. And then you'll see that it says it looks for the type field to have the value of arrest, and then it points to another PNG, and so on and so forth. It does this for every single symbology that you want. And then there's the default case that says, you know, if either the value is unknown, if you have an unknown value, or it's not any of these other ones, it can essentially, we have a way to put a question mark, unknowns, which is this last entry here. Okay. And so let's look at another style. This we'll go ahead and show you another layer. Okay. I'll add a layer called Incidentis OD3. This particular layer, I'm going to collapse the legend for the first layer we were looking at. So my map has two layers, and as you can see, this particular symbology not only has different types, but it has different different colored circles around the symbology. And you can see from this particular legend that it's essentially saying a missing person, high priority. It has red around it. The other one is medium priority, missing person. It's in Spanish, and then the other one is low priority, green. Same for accidents. Same for other things. For example, if the person missing, it's a VIP. That might be a situation where one might use a higher priority missing person. And also, it has an option for finalized. So this particular symbology is set so that regardless of what the values are, as soon as a particular feature is set to finalize, so let's go ahead and take this accident, and we're going to edit the attributes, and let's go ahead and set the status to finalized. As soon as it's set to finalized, the feature is essentially goes to a smaller purple color, so that the attention can go to other features that need to be processed on the map. So we can take a look at the style for this particular layer, and I'll search for here Incidentis. Okay. So this particular layer, it's a rather long XML file, so it takes some patience to put the logic to catch. For every type and every priority, there's a different symbology, and also, regardless of type and priority, there are cases where we have a completely different symbology in the finalized case. And for example, let's go ahead and look at one section here. This one says there's a rule here that says injury, which is low priority. So it says we want to look for a property name. There's a field in the other layer was called type. Here is called evento. Look for an attribute called evento. If the value of it is this particular value, and the status, it's not equal to finalized, and these three sections are being ANDed together. There's an AND operator here. So, and the priority level, it's low, as bajo, would then show this particular PNG, which says people injured, priority low, and that's what it's doing. And then this is going through all the combinations for different ones to make a rather long style, but it covers all these different cases. Okay, so this covers. We've now covered how to upload a layer, how to style it very easily and quickly just through GeoNode by simply changing the styling here. However, okay, so let's go zoom out a little bit more. However, the options you have here are not as as easily accessible as what you can do directly, or you can't do as many sophisticated things here as easily as you can in the XML file, but you can make modifications here. So When you have the choice, when it works for you, definitely use this. But for some of your operations, it's best to go directly to the SLD file and view it. So, and if you want to learn more about SLD, you could, if you just Google Geoserver SLD, you'll see that there's an introduction to SLD manual here um, by the developers of Geoserver, and there's examples of what can be done. All right, so very good. So this concludes this particular section where we talked about how to upload a layer, style it, and also upload a schema. Please let us know if you have any questions. Thanks.